Hello, this is Dr. Lori. Welcome to this discussion on vital statistics and demography. In this talk, I would like to share a few of the important systems that we have in place to capture vital statistics and do the work of demography or demographics. So the first two things that I would like to point out have to do with the census and vital records. And these two things are similar to each other in that we try to capture 100% of the population. Very often in our work with evidence-based public health, we are not trying to capture every single person, but the census and vital records are different. We are actually trying to capture everyone. With the census, what we are doing is we are literally enumerating the population. In other words, we are counting every single person. We capture a few things about them, a few statistics, age, race, ethnicity, sex, and we try to paint a picture of who is living in what location. And so the census often is the thing that we use as the denominator for a variety of different measures. So for example, if we were doing a study on San Bernardino and we needed to know out of how many children who are a specific age group or age range, we might say 150 per 100,000 have asthma, or a specific number per 1,000. That per 100,000 or per 1,000 often comes from the census. That tells us how many people total we have, and then we know how many cases we had in that particular area, and so then we can calculate that measure of risk. Vital records, we're collecting three different things: birth, death, and marriage certificates. So again, we are trying to capture 100% of the births and deaths and marriages that happen in a particular location over time. And so this gives us a sense of how the population is changing, who is entering the population, who is exiting the population, and what are some of the kinds of things that are happening within that population. The downside to these vital records is that the information sometimes that we find on birth and death and marriage certificates is not always accurate. And so specifically, like for example with death certificates include a variety of information in addition to the name of the person. And the cause of death is sometimes tricky to figure out. We don't always know what caused that particular event to occur. We have the cause of death and the underlying cause of death. The person who's filling out the death certificate may not have known the person very well, or they were in a hurry. And so there are a variety of things that happen with any of these vital records that the information found on them may not be accurate. Also, in terms of, say, causes of death, the coding for causes of death can even change dramatically over time. Our definitions of specific health states, diseases can change. And so the vital records aren't 100% perfect, but they are our best estimate of the kinds of things that are happening within our population. And so the census and the vital records both are trying to capture everyone. Surveys, on the other hand, are typically performed on a subsample of the population, and they give us a snapshot, a cross-sectional snapshot of what's happening in that population. We might ask people questions in a questionnaire. We might actually examine them, draw their blood, weigh them, measure them, all of those kinds of things. And Haynes is a common survey that people know about. The BRFSS, Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, is another one. There's a youth version of that, the Youth Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System. National Health Interview Survey. It collects a broad range of health topics by the researchers collecting that information through personal household interviews. And so there's a variety of different surveys that are collected. And the important thing to remember about these is that as the years go by, we are collecting this information on different people. And so let's say in 1990 we collected the information on a specific sample that we selected. In 1991 we collected often many of the same questions. Perhaps some of the questions have changed or morphed or been added or deleted, but they are a different group. Again, we're trying to collect a sample of people that represents the larger group, the larger population that we're trying to have something to say about. But as the years go by, the group of people that we're asking questions of or examining changes. And so this is not a cohort study. This is sequential samples of the population that is changing over time. And so these surveys are giving us snapshots, and then we can compare and see what kinds of things are happening or changing over time. So these are some of the ways that we try to keep track of what's happening within a population, both vital statistics and demography. And thank you for joining me for this discussion.